Welcome to the show. You're watching the Fox Business Network. Let's start with the president triggering new controversies with his CNN town hall last night. Look who's back with us. Congresswoman Nancy Mace and Congresswoman Nicole Malliotakis. It's great to see you both. You're both with House Transportation and Infrastructure. Congressman Mace, the president said he has no time to visit the border. Drug and human traffickers are making our cities unrecognizable. What was your reaction to that? He's spending weekends in Delaware and Camp David. What do you say?
Well, it's unbelievable, really, right? We're going to have upwards of 400,000 potentially illegal immigrant apprehensions in the month of October. And then we're going to fire the Border Patrol agents that don't have a vaccination, even though many of them have probably already had COVID-19 and are vastly more protected by having natural immunity than by someone who hasn't had it and has a vaccination. I talked to a lot of independents and Democrats representing a swing district, and folks are very frustrated, I would say even pissed off with President Biden right now, because they thought they were voting for someone who's very moderate, middle of the road. And they're kind of like, what the heck is going on here? He can't even be bothered to address the crises at the border, to address the Afghanistan crisis, inflation and spending. And then we saw this disastrous town hall on CNN last night. People are scratching their heads asking what's going on.
And Congressman Malliotakis, I know you're fired up and ready to go. I'd like your reaction to what happened last night in that town hall. Let's listen, watch.
My guess is you'll start to see gas prices come down as we get by and going into the winter, into next year in 2022. I don't see anything that's going to happen in the meantime that's going to significantly reduce gas prices.
But you're actually talking about having National Guardsmen and women driving trucks?
The answer is yes, if we can't increase the number of truckers, which we're in the process of doing.
Do you have plans to visit the southern border?
I've been there before, and I haven't. I mean, I know it well. I guess I should go down, but the whole point of it is I haven't had a whole hell of a lot of time to get down.
Okay, Congressman, sit tight. Listen to the press secretary in overdrive trying to clean this up. Watch.
Why did President Biden say he has been to the border?
Well, Peter, as you may have seen, there's been reporting that he did drive through the border when he was on the campaign trail in 2008.
Was that good enough? What do you think? 2008? That's 13 years ago. It was before he was even vice president. What do you say?
At the State of the Union, I told the president he needed to go to the border, that he needed to support our Customs and Border Patrol agents, that he needed to stop the drug cartels from overrunning them. And he said he was going to do something about it, but clearly we are now seeing record numbers coming over. But what's really frightening, and I'm terribly concerned for national security right now, we know that 52 individuals with al-Qaeda ties have been stopped in Panama attempting to come to the United States. We also know that there have been several individuals on the terrorist watch list that have been stopped by Customs and Border Patrol. What about the people that are crossing over that are not being detected by them? We know that's happening at porous parts of the border. So I'm truly concerned, knowing that all these individuals were released from al-Baghdadi, that this is going to turn up to be a very dangerous situation if he doesn't get serious about securing the border and also stopping the fentanyl that's coming over.
I mean, we have enough fentanyl that they caught. That was enough to kill 700,000 Americans since just August. To the Congresswoman's point, he can do an executive order with a pen. He could just fix the border. He could fix the energy crisis. He could fix the supply chain crisis. Congresswoman Mace, it just sounds really feckless and all over the map. Really just haphazard and disastrous answers there. What do you say?
Now, it's crisis after crisis. And when we talk about the border, we talk about signing executive orders. It was President Biden that signed an executive order on day one to reverse President Trump's border policies like the wall. We had steel on the ground in the southern border ready to build a wall, and he ended it all. And his policies have been disastrous. We've seen record numbers of illegals cross the border. 1.7 million illegal immigrant apprehensions year to date so far this year. That is a record in over 20 years. And here we are in Congress. I had a hearing on oversight a couple weeks ago, and it was about the border, Liz, but it was about the northern border, where we have less than 10,000 apprehensions a year, nothing to address the crisis at the southern border, the humanitarian and criminal. People are paying $5,000 to $8,000 a person to the cartels. We're literally funding the drug cartels in Mexico. They make more money on human trafficking than they do on trafficking drugs, and it's wrong, and they know it.
There's that, and there's also the, he's feckless about gas prices. We're at, 7-year, 13-year highs in oil prices and heating prices. I mean, the U.S. oil boom, he's making like there's nothing he could do about it. I mean, the Energy Department is warning we're going to have heating and gas prices soaring this winter, 13-year highs. No state has average gas below $3.50 or whatever. I mean, but now he's about to fly to a UN junket in Scotland when I'm like polluting airplanes. And then he's going to talk about carbon taxes. His poll numbers are crashing. In New Hampshire, the Democrats want to primary him. Half of Democrats in New Hampshire want to primary him. Congresswoman Malliotakis, what do you say to that?
Well, the disregard coming from this administration regarding the problems that everyday Americans are facing, where oil prices that they're going to use to heat their home, natural gas that they're going to use to heat their home, gasoline to take their kids to school, electricity, if you want to put the lights on, these are not high-class problems, as his chief of staff has said. And to hear Jen Psaki just blow it off and be sarcastic about it, when this is going to affect every single American person, it is truly a tragedy, and it's unfortunate that we have this lack of leadership. And he canceled the Keystone Pipeline. He's making Europe more dependent on Russia. He wants us to be more dependent on OPEC. And it's completely outrageous the way he has dismantled our ability to potentially be energy independent in this country.
Yeah, and they campaign on restoring civility to the White House, but they're constantly showing disdain for the voter. The Biden agenda is falling apart, Congresswoman Mace, because of incompetent messaging, finger-wagging Americans over the multiplying crises they've created and for which they have no solutions. That's the issue. What about thinking of the American taxpayer first?
Oh, right. And I would love for someone to ask Jen Psaki about Russia, right? We are increasing our imports of Russian oil. Russia is not an ally here. And the administration, Jen Psaki and President Biden, they have lied over and over and over again to the American people, whether we're talking about the border crisis, we're talking about the exit from Afghanistan. I've sat in classified hearings about Afghanistan where Biden's cabinet and other members of his administration straight up obfuscate or lie to both Republicans and Democrats about the crises facing our country. They lied about the Haitians that were at the border and they were going to go back to Haiti. Well, they didn't. Right. They came to the United States. There are these night flights in the middle of the night. We don't know where they are or how many there are, where they're going. It's impossible to track because they're not allowing the American people to see it. It's not being done in broad daylight. It's obfuscation. It's dishonest and it's un-American.
Got it. Congresswoman Nancy Mace and Nicole Malliotakis, thanks for joining us. Come back soon.